We're going to talk now about the divorce process and how long it takes to get divorced. Other than how much it's going to may cost you to get divorced, probably the next most popular question we get is, how long is this going to take? And of course, I'm going to give you a lawyer answer, and that is, it depends. But I will say that by and large, we tell clients, for the most part, to plan on 9 months. It's also important to understand that it could be less, and it could be substantially more, and I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of this video. It's important to understand that there's different stages to every divorce. The first stage is the fact gathering stage. And by that, you have to produce, at the end of that stage, you need to produce something called a financial affidavit, which is the most important document in a divorce case as it relates to finances. And there's a lot of due diligence that goes into preparing a financial affidavit. You have to get your last tax records for the last 3 years, bank statements, brokerage statements, and valuations of houses. You have to figure out how much you spend on electricity and utilities and the like. And the other side, by the way, has to do all this as well. And some of these documents, or many of them, or most of them, are going to be disclosed as part of the discovery process by you, and we're going to get the same in return from the other side. So that's the fact gathering phase. You need to complete that phase before you can get to the next stage, which is the negotiation stage. But before you get to negotiation, you got to understand what all the facts are. And then the negotiation stage is pretty straightforward. That is, one side sends a proposal, the other side looks at it and sends a counter proposal. You talk, you meet perhaps, and you discuss, and you figure out where you can make compromises in order to find a mutually agreed upon final agreement. In some cases during the negotiation phase, the parties can't reach an agreement. They just get stuck. In which case, in a lot of cases, what we do is we then hire a private mediator. Sometimes it's a retired judge, for example, to help bridge the gap, to have an objective voice that can help move the parties to make a couple more moves with respect to compromising. In all events, at the end of the negotiation phase, you have some sort of agreement in principle. And then the next stage is the finalization stage. And that is, you take that agreement in principle, you put it into a comprehensive marital settlement agreement, and even that you have to go back and forth with and maybe make some smaller compromises and tweak it until it's in its final stage, and then you can submit that to the court for final resolution, a dissolution of your marriage. A lot of times, in most cases nowadays, you never even have to go to court in order to get divorced in Connecticut. Now, it's also important to understand that COVID has created this backlog in courts. But the reality is that doesn't affect most cases unless you need court access to litigate things, and that's a small percentage of the cases, then that backlog doesn't affect you. Now, if you are one of those cases, which is less than 10%, that needs access to the court to argue and have a judge decide things, well, yes, that's going to have an impact, and we'd have to talk to you individually to give you better guidance as far as that goes. Are there cases that can last less than 9 months? Sure. There's cases we do that last as little as 90 days, but there's no kids, there's no house, both of the parties came to their first meetings kind of agreeing on most of the issues. So there are cases that can be 2 or 3 months in length, but they're pretty rare. And then there are cases, as I alluded to before, that if you need access to the court, they're going to take a year or even 2 years if you need to go to trial. But by and large, we tell people to plan on 9 months. In all events, we hope that you find this video helpful, as well as the free information that's on our website. Please consider meeting with us, and so that we can help you find peace through strength.